Fresh sweet corn is one of my favorite summertime foods. I love picking out ears of the farmer's market. I love husking corn, yes, even husking. And I love nothing more than scraping crisp, creamy kernels from the cob with my teeth. I also love butter and salt, so. Corn was first domesticated from a wild grass called teosinte in Mexico by some estimates as many as 9,000 years ago. Since then, it's been on a pretty wild ride, supporting entire indigenous civilizations and taking on countless forms. Today, I'm gonna drill down on sweet corn, which makes up a tiny percentage of overall world corn production, is eaten immature as a vegetable as opposed to being treated like a cereal grain, and like all great summertime vegetables, needs to be embraced when it's in season. All sweet corn eating starts with sweet corn shopping. So let's start there. My favorite way to shop for sweet corn is a pretty interactive one. I like to feel the cobs the entire length and check for nice full kernels. If the market is okay with it, I will peel open the top and peek at those top kernels, but only if it's okay at the market that you shop at. I mean it. I don't want to get angry letters and emails from shops and farmers markets across the country. I've been through that, okay? Ruined my 2017. As its name suggests, sweet corn is pretty sweet. And that characteristic is so desirable that there's actually been a lot of innovation in the world of corn in order to create cobs that have more sugar to start with and are able to hold on to it better after harvest. If you grew up with the advice that you should cook your corn immediately after buying or picking it, chances are good that you grew up with standard sweet corn. Standard sweet corn features a lovely sweet corn flavor, tender skins, which are also known as the pericarp, an interior that is creamy and delicious. It also has the unfortunate characteristic of converting sugar to starch rapidly after being picked. Standard sweet corn can convert about half of its sugar to starch in just 24 hours. If you're buying standard sweet corn, definitely cook it soon after purchase. But chances are good that you're buying one of a few super sweet varieties of corn that start out with a lot more sugar. Some contain twice as much sugar and others as much as 4 times the amount of sugar. Some super sweet varieties convert their sugar to starch more slowly than standard sweet corn, and others lack the genotype to do it at all. So they stay sweet, period. If you're in the super sweet world, your corn will be sweet for at least 4 days, and sometimes a whole lot longer. If you're buying your corn from a farmer's market, ask the vendor what kind of corn they're selling, and then act accordingly. If you want my unbiased, completely biased opinion, I like standard sweet corn best. As you get into the world of super sweet corns, you often have to compromise on texture. Oh, and a note on color. The color of corn is an indication of its carotene content, not its sugar content. So what I recommend is choosing corn based on what works best with what you're wearing. Regardless of the type that you buy, if you're gonna store your corn for any period of time, it's best to keep it cold. While corn plants are sensitive to chilling injury, harvested ears actually benefit from cold storage. And the colder the storage temperature, the better, as long as the ear doesn't freeze. That's because cold temperatures along with humidity slow the rate at which the corn's sugar converts to starch. To help keep the kernels as moist as possible, place the unhusked ears inside of a wet paper bag and then put that inside of a plastic shopping bag before putting that inside your fridge. All right, so we've purchased our corn. We've maybe stored our corn for some length of time. Now it is time to prep and cook our corn, and for that, we gotta head to the kitchen. I personally love shucking corn because it reminds me of being a kid outside in the summer. But if you're not so into the peeling and removing of corn silk, there's a much cleaner and easier way, and that is using your microwave. A video of a gentleman named Ken Craig went viral back in 2000 and something, and it is my favorite. Ken shows us how to cook corn entirely in the microwave and then simply shake the corn directly out of its husk. It's totally genius, and there's a link below this video to check it out. I'm gonna show you a way to cook corn that is much more foolproof than using your microwave, but that doesn't mean you can't use your microwave to still get that easy huskability, which is definitely probably a word. Check this out. Starting at the stock end, using a sharp chefing knife or a serrated knife, cut about 1 inch above the last row of kernels. Pop on a plate and microwave for 2 minutes. Then just shake, shake, shake. Because the corn silk all comes together at the top of the ear and that all remains intact with this method, the ear of corn slides out with no silk inside. How cool is that? Once your ear is freed from its husk, you're likely headed in one of 2 ways. You are cooking that corn on the cob, or you need to get those kernels off. We are going to get to our game-changing method for cooking corn on the cob shortly, I promise, but first, how to get those kernels off. How many of you, by a show of hands, have ended up in a nightmare situation like this? Kernels of corn literally flying everywhere, all over your cutting board, the counter, the floor, into your neighbor's yard. It's a nightmare. It doesn't have to be this way. Here are 2 great ways to strip the kernels with no mess. The first is to lay down the ear like this and use a chef's knife. Because the kernels have less distance to travel, they don't go flying all over the place. The second, and my favorite method, is to grab a 12-inch skillet and a paring knife. The kernels only fly off where you are cutting them, so slide the ear all the way to one side of the skillet. A paring knife brings you much closer to the corn for better control, and allows you to cut all the way down to the bottom. And the lip of the skillet catches everything. If you're making a chowder or other soupy corn situation, be sure to flip your knife over and scrape down the entire length of the cob to extract as much corn milk as possible. Add that to the pot along with your kernels for maximum corniness, which is also what you're getting from this video. One of the finest ways to use your freshly harvested corn kernels is a stovetop batch of esquites, the easier to eat with a spoon variation of elotes. This recipe by Cook's Illustrated senior editor Lon Lamb comes together quickly in a skillet and absolutely pops with creamy, cheesy, limey, chili flavor. Just look at that. And just taste that. Yum. But when it's peak corn season, I love nothing more than eating corn right off the cob. Unless, of course, that corn is overcooked. We've all had overcooked corn on the cob at that backyard barbecue that looks like this, right? Where the skins are so soft that they actually wrinkle and stick to your teeth. It's so disappointing. Oof. The best way to avoid that and ensure perfectly cooked boiled corn every time is don't boil it at all. This super smart technique also comes to us from Lon Lamb. And would you believe it's entirely grounded in science? The goal when cooking corn is twofold. You need to gel the starch inside the kernels so that it's nice and creamy and not chalky or starchy. At the same time, you don't want to dissolve the pectin in the pericarp because that's what leads to that soft teeth sticking situation. And here is where some key temperatures come into play. The starch in the corn will gel at about 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Pectin dissolves at about 185 degrees Fahrenheit. And boiling water is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Look, here's what I'm trying to get at. You don't need 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Bring 4 quarts of water to a boil in a large Dutch oven, but then turn off the heat. Add the corn to the water, cover, and then let stand for at least 10 minutes or up to 30 minutes. Here's a graph of what happens, because we all know graphs make food so much more delicious. The temperature rapidly drops when we add the corn to the water, and we do most of our cooking in that temperature sweet spot of 150 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Plenty hot to gel the starch, plenty cool to keep that pectin in check. Amazing. What about adding other stuff to the pie, you ask? You'll often see stuff like salt, sugar, even sometimes milk. It turns out that that pericarp on the corn is really hard to penetrate. Salt can penetrate in a sort of backdoor approach where it first absorbs into the cob and then into the back of the kernel of corn, but that can take literally hours. So your best bet is to just use plain water and season your corn up right at the table. And for that, I love a dedicated stick of butter. And then I like to rain on kosher salt while I spin the cob. The final step is of course eating, and here the world cleaves into 3 types of people. We have the typewriters. They go side to side. We have the log runners. They rotate the cob as they go. Finally, we have the anarchists. They take bites from all over the cob until the corn is finally gone. Me, I come from a family of both typewriters and log runners. I think I have a 3rd cousin who might be an anarchist. But I am a log runner through and through. And that's why this is how to eat fresh corn. Thank you for watching. It is so great to be out of my home office and back in my office. Just good to be back. Now I have an important question for all of you and I need you to answer in the comments below. I need to know, are you a typewriter? Are you a log runner? Or are you an anarchist? So let me know, I'll tabulate it all up and we'll have a big conference for typewriters, log runners, all that stuff. It's gonna be fantastic. While you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I will see you very, very soon.